Look at the sheer speed of this mechanical assembly arm clamping down. When an autonomous system detects a signal and reacts instantly to alter the physical or digital world, it operates without a human in the loop. If a signal directly prompts an agent to execute an external action, the system enters an unvalidated state. This direct event-to-effect execution is known as unbounded agency. Direct execution models bypass the generation of a formal record. Without intervening gates, the system fails to capture the specific context behind an action, which precludes the forensic reconstruction of the decision logic for an audit. Bounded agency is a property of the runtime environment. The architecture enforces constraints that the model cannot bypass on its own. This diagram illustrates the exact problem. An event directly triggers an agent, producing an immediate effect. To secure the system, the runtime must sever the agent's logic from that final action. We dismantle that connection by dropping a 13-stage control plane into the pipeline. Governance begins with the systemic decoupling of the trigger from the action. We replace direct execution with a deterministic, heavily gated pipeline. The sequence begins on the far left. This illuminated event node acts as the formal trigger. Nothing begins without a recognized, declared occurrence. The system captures the raw signal, classifying it against known event types. Then, the runtime routes the event to a specific agent class, represented by this grayed-out agent node. The selected agent remains dormant, possessing zero computational freedom. Before it can compute, it requires identity. A newly generated passport node slides into the pipeline. The control plane issues this passport, explicitly anchoring the agent's trust level and role. But identity is insufficient. An authority node attaches to define precise permissions. The runtime mathematically resolves the specific decision rights, escalation limits, and approval requirements available to this exact actor in this exact situation. An agent could possess high clearance, but without an explicit runtime-resolved permission basis applied to the immediate task, that computational identity is neutralized. The control plane has established the actor and its boundaries. It must now strictly define the data the actor will evaluate. Relying on natural language interpretation is too loose for enterprise governance. This semantics node begins filtering the raw event data. The runtime forces incoming states into canonical definitions, eliminating semantic drift. Safe decisions require historical boundaries. A context node assembles the required facts. Operating under least privilege, the control plane compiles the minimum required history, active signals, and policy references for this step. Every element verified so far must be locked together. The architecture seals them into this envelope container. This unified envelope becomes the sole governed execution package for the remainder of the flow. From this point forward, the runtime environment refuses to interact with scattered data streams. It will only accept the cryptographically sealed envelope. Unstructured signals are inherently volatile. By demanding a fully assembled, verified data payload, the system guarantees that control mechanisms have stable geometry to evaluate.
Even with a perfectly constructed envelope, execution cannot proceed. The runtime must mathematically prove that the requested action complies with operational law. The envelope hits its first hard gateway, policy. The engine evaluates the sealed contents against machine-checkable rules, processing context and authority to return a definitive allow, deny, or obligation. This gate never sleeps. The system triggers a fresh policy evaluation prior to any sensitive state transition. But a single approved action does not equal a governed process. The envelope moves into the protocol framework. The protocol establishes the exact allowed interaction pattern. It dictates the mandatory sequence of messages, legally permitted retries, and strict terminal outcomes. To enforce these rules in real time, this state machine node locks around the protocol. The state machine executes control logic deterministically. It tracks the current phase, evaluates transition validity, and physically blocks any out-of-order operations. Abstract corporate guidelines offer zero protection at runtime. Governance only exists when rules translate into an executable state tracker, enforcing compliance every millisecond. We have advanced through 10 highly complex stages of architecture. The data is structured, the rules are checked, and the identity is verified. Yet the AI agent has not yet computed a single decision. Finally, the system hands the verified envelope to the agent. The node illuminates inside the state machine. Operating entirely inside this constrained frame, the agent interprets the governed context and formulates a bounded recommendation. The agent's logic concludes, and the flow reaches the external boundary, the effects gateway. External actions occur strictly through this final node. The gateway fires the effect only if state logic and policy confirm it is permissible. Look at the foundation spanning the bottom of the diagram. Execution holds zero value without audits. This is provenance. Provenance operates as the immutable evidentiary history of the entire transaction. It records the exact passport claims utilized, the mathematical authority basis, the distinct policy outcomes, and the final executed effects, securing the execution timeline. Real-world physical and digital actions are only secure when the exhaustive decision matrix leading to them is mathematically permitted and permanently recorded. Observe this fully constructed architecture. The execution pulse travels systematically from the triggering event through the final effect. Notice the proportion of the system. In a properly governed environment, the intelligent agent is actually the smallest moving part. The vast majority of the compute and structural design is dedicated strictly to verifying the operational constraints applying to that intelligence. The event starts execution. The runtime routes the agent. The passport admits it. Authority limits it. Semantics clarify the meaning. Context informs it. The envelope carries the payload. Policy constrains it. Protocol defines the path. The state machine enforces that path. The agent decides within strict bounds. Effects change the world, and provenance proves it. Robust autonomous systems depend on inescapable governance pipelines. Smarter agents are secondary to the architecture that contains them.